trying to get as much information as possible to find out exactly what went wrong. We did hear from a witness who didn't want to be identified, telling us that she believes this was a man who had been doing some landscaping work here in the neighborhood who showed up and shot at Mr. Kraska and then left in a vehicle. Again, police officers at the scene, we see them right now interviewing neighbors. So this is still a very fluid information. We're still waiting on San Diego police to come out and brief us, give us at least some form of confirmation as to what happened, what we're hearing, and we'll bring you updates later on in the newscast. That's the latest here. I'm going to send it back to you guys.
Christian, just to piggyback about some things that you mentioned, police are looking for an older model white minivan that we got word of, and this is unconfirmed witness accounts. Christian, I'm sure you have also heard this, that it could have been more than one person, and possibly, you mentioned a landscaper, but we've also heard that it could have been his painter. Again, this all coming in unconfirmed, but just, with our sources here in the newsroom, and Christian, you also talking to people there in the neighborhood. Can you give us any sense as well? I mean, are people still kind of milling about and the rumor mill, if you will, still everyone kind of talking and sharing stories about what they heard and what they saw?
Well, I can tell you this. There seems to be a sense of this not having been just a random act of violence. It seems like the people or the person that showed up and shot at Mr. Kraska knew what he was doing, that Mr. Kraska was in fact a target. This was not a random act of violence. At least that's what we're hearing from those witnesses who saw what happened, heard the gunshots, and came running out. Again, there are a lot of people just arriving here from work, everyone extremely shocked and saddened with what happened. But again, a lot of the information that we're hearing hasn't been confirmed, and we're waiting for police officers or a lieutenant to show up and give us some confirmed information, tell us what they found up until this point.
Christian, we understand that right now Kyle is in surgery. That's what his coworkers are saying over there at Channel 8, getting a little bit of insight as to what they know. And I asked you this earlier. I don't know if you've been able to get any more account of this, but did it seem that there was some sort of previous trouble between this landscaper or painter, a person who was working at his house, who potentially is a suspect here, and Kyle? Or I can imagine right now, you're still waiting to hear from police, so I'm sure it's hard to gather the exact deal there. But maybe have neighbors said anything along those lines, that there were trouble between the two at all?
Well, I can tell you that seems to be the case. At least I heard from one woman who told me that this seems to have been a contracting job gone wrong, quote. That's what we heard from this neighbor. But again, let's go ahead and zoom in again. I just want to show you the scene. A lot of investigators, officers, this is where we're zooming in, right between the police car and the fire truck is where we're told that Kyle Kraska was found and picked up by an ambulance, taken to the hospital. Of course, now we're hearing good news that he isn't facing life-threatening injuries, but this is a very active scene. A lot of investigators here at the scene, and I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we hear from at least a public information officer and we can find out a little bit more as to what really happened here. I'm going to send it back to you guys in studio.
Hey, Christian, keep your photographer zoomed in there. We're seeing a white Honda with its driver's side door open. We also saw that in a different picture from Sky Fox. We know that Kyle was driving the Mercedes, that the back window was shot out. Do you have any indication of what relation this white Honda has to do with anything, or this white Civic, whatever that white sedan is right there with the door open?
At this point, I can tell you that I think investigators are still trying to figure that out. We don't know. What we do know is that information about the minivan, the vehicle that may have sped away after the shooting took place. We're also getting a sense from investigators that this all happened very quickly. We only know of at least one witness that says she saw it all happen, but everybody else just heard the gunshots and came running out. So it's just a matter of waiting and see. And until we hear from investigators, we're not going to know exactly what went down.
All right, our Christian De La Rosa on top of this story in Scripps Ranch, where Channel 8 sports anchor and sports director Kyle Kraska has been shot multiple times. Again, we understand there are non-life-threatening injuries. That is the good news. Christian's going to stand by, and we're going to take a quick break and be right back here on the Fox 5 News at 4.